Hey everybody, it's Pat here, and we just finished our very first pre-cut party, Pat's pre-cut party that we're going to do on a monthly basis. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to go back and attend this month's because you're not going to want to miss it. We made 3 different quilts. Here's the first quilt. Here's the second quilt. Well, this was actually the third quilt where you got free embroidery designs of these beautiful butterflies. And then the third quilt is right here. And this is all made with one strip set. And it was really a great class. I think the ladies loved it. We'll let them tell you. But we're going to give you a chance to sign up because since this is virtual, we do it live on Facebook Live once a month, and then we upload it, and you have until the next pre-cut party to sign up. And so we're going to give you a chance to sign up for it. We're going to give you the link below, and it's $15 to get in. You're going to get the patterns, and you're going to get the free embroidery designs, and you get access to all of the videos and the lessons that go along with that. And then what we also want you to do is sign. I'm out of breath, I worked so hard. You're going to be able to sign up for next month's class for only $5. So ongoing, each month is going to be $5 if you prepay, and then it'll be $15 to get in afterwards if you like the quilts. So you also get the strip sets. We're going to have the links to buy the Gypsy Soul strip sets and everything that goes along with it. So I hope you sign up. You're going to want to. And then next month is going to be $5. And so all the information is going to be below. And look forward to seeing you and hope you sign up. Thanks. Oh, wait a minute. What else was I supposed to say?
We were going to show them a clip.
Oh, that's right. There is a clip of a little bit from the class. And actually, I'm going to let the ladies tell you how much they enjoyed the class. I thought it was fun. I think they're great projects. And next month is going to be just as much fun. We'll see you soon. Bye. And we are in my studio, and it's probably the cleanest it's been, right, John? But we're going to practice, and if you haven't seen my video yet on a perfect 1/4 inch, I want to do a quick little lesson. These are my favorite things. My purple sewing edge tool, and we do have these in the store, and if you'll notice when I use them, when you put them down here, if you have your bobbin set here, I don't know what machine everybody has, but you'll notice that they get a little gumpy and then they don't sit straight. So the beautiful thing about this is it is reusable. So what I do is I take it and I put it under a little warm water with some soapy warm water, and I just kind of rub that off, and then I set it and let it air dry. I might dab it a little bit with a paper towel, but you don't want to get lint back on it. So I just set it aside and get a new one for now. And this is how I sew a perfect 1/4 inch. Number one, if you have a Crescendo, a Solaris, any of the baby locks, I always sew with the digital dual feed foot and my 1/4 inch foot. If you don't have that, I have one of my videos before. I'll let you know how to do it with a regular foot. But what I love about this machine is I can turn my guideline marker on. And I like to you can do a perfect 1/4 inch, but for strip set purposes, I do a scant 1/4 inch, which would be about a 4.0 on the machine. Now you see that guideline marker. I want to make sure that I get this sewing edge because this makes your sewing so much easier. But I take the ruler and I mark where my 1/4 inch is, right there. Actually, I'm going to put it back to 3.5 because I want it a little bit scant. So I'm going to use this ruler, and if you see, I don't know if you can see, I hope you can, it's just a scant over, and I want to make sure that I get it a little bit over to there, and that will give me a good 1/4 inch, and my fabric just goes just right over that. There's my 1/4 inch foot, and I'm ready to sew. And I sew with a 2 millimeter length on my machine, and I am going to put my fabric, so you can back up a little bit, John. So what I do not pin my strips. You don't have to if you've got that purple sewing edge. I just get the first one in, and I drop this down, and I start sewing. And all this sewing edge is just set perfect so that I can just set it up, make sure that they go. You stop every once in a while when it edges over, and I'm just pushing up against this side and letting the machine do the work. Okay, so there is I cut them in half for sake of time, so you don't have to sit and watch me sew a strip set all the way down. And yes, you might want to get those loose threads off of there. Sometimes they get caught up in the foot. So now I'm going to cut it. What I want to do, since I've sewed front ways this way, I want to put a pin in the top of that, because if you're sewing more than 3 strips, you want to keep track. So that tells me that this strip set was fed through this first. And what we want to do, sometimes if you feed them all the same way, so if I sew the next strip in here through the same way, you have a tendency to get your strip sets a little crooked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up, and no matter where I put that strip, if I put it on the other side, it doesn't matter. Now I'm going to sew it this way. But I am going to start at the other end. So I want to sew this end, just flip it over, and sew this end, so that what's happening is the stitches will not be crooked. You're kind of forcing it back the other way. And I don't know if everybody has ever heard this, but it does make a difference, especially if you're starting to sew, you know, in those jelly roll race rugs where you had to keep sewing your stitches or your strips over and over and over. That was one of the things you just want to keep alternating to keep your strips going, laying flat. I should say laying flat is what we're looking for. Okay? And you noticed I did not press my seams on the first one. I don't, for time's sake. If that's important to you, you can press in between, but it just adds a little time. So there's my 3 strips, okay? Now I want to go to the pressing mat, and I want to talk a little bit about pressing. Okay, so here's my 3 strips. And I'm going to talk here about a few things. I want to address a few things. So you always like to set your seams, and I know you've learned that in your basic. Hopefully you've all learned that in your basic. So you always want to set your seams. And I'm just a habit. I want to set those seams in the fabric. And it's kind of hard. You want to press your seams all in the same direction. So it doesn't matter which way they go. You can just press them all the same direction. And really, it's not going to affect anything in the quilt when you get ready to sew these together. So I give it a quick press in one direction. You see I'm pulling, I'm going against all the rules. I am pulling this, but I'll show you why in just a minute. So, and we're going to talk about that. I want to get it pressed down. You want to get them pressed down from the back first, because every time I try to do it from the front, I can't tell you, my seams get flipped over. So I always get them at least laying down from the back first. And there we go. And now if you can hit the camera on this, John, I'm going to spend the rest of the time on this. You can see I've got steam, and it goes against everything that everybody talks about. But I want to lay my seams this way, and I am pressing. You see I'm pulling? I know it's a bad thing, but I do, because I want those seams to be flat. And I'm going to get them laying down really good. And then I'm going to do something that goes against everybody's. You're going to say, oh my gosh. But I learned this from Susan Cleveland a long time ago. That's how she gets hers down, steaming and pulling. Now the important thing is not to pick it up and go cut it. You're going to let it sit there, cool off. But I'm going to do one more thing beforehand. You know, with your background, I don't know if you guys have your background fabric yet. But if you do it, if you've taken a class from me, you know I'm a starcher. I'm a major starcher because it makes all the difference in your piecing. And when you buy a jelly roll like this, you cannot starch it. It really wouldn't be a very good idea to starch it before you sew them together like this. So what I have done, and I have played around with this a lot, because if your background fabric, I want you to starch it really, really good. And you all know my starch secret. For those that haven't taken a class and don't know my starch secret, I'll put that up there later on. But believe it or not, at this point, I go ahead and I starch my strip set. And I don't starch it like I do my fabric, but I do give it a good amount of starch. And you can see I'm just sitting here, and I'm letting it sit on there. I should measure it beforehand because I want to show you something. This should measure, when you're cut, it should measure 6.5 inches, and The beauty of this is what we need actually for the quilt, and I'll show you on the ruler, is 6 1/4, but 6 1/2 inches, and it measures approximately 6 1/2 inches. It's a little under, even though I had a scant 1/4 inch. Don't stress over it. It's really okay, because guess what? I put starch in there, and I'm going to let that set and kind of absorb into the fabric a little bit. Add a little bit more there. And get that set. And actually what I do is I don't want to get it all scaly like you get if you do it wet, but it is pretty wet. So I would go and do something, let it set, don't mess with it too much. And then what you're going to do is, let's just pretend that it's set a little bit. And you're going to go back, it's almost not, you don't want it dripping wet like when you first got it. And I turn my starch off, or my steam off, and now I'm just going back and doing the same thing. And you can see, you can almost straighten out these curves, but what you're doing is you're avoiding, I don't know if you've ever tried to press something and you realize that it pressed it, you didn't pull that seam all the way open as you were pressing. So I just keep pressing all the way down that strip set. Is there any questions on this?
I'm not seeing any.
I must be boring them. I hope I'm not. So you can see I'm ironing and not pressing. These still have a ways to go in the block before it's completed, so it's really okay, because we're going to use our Tucker trimmer and trim down what's extra. The thing you don't want is to not have enough. So like I said, this was just under 6 1/2 inches when I started. And now I've got a nice, beautiful, thick. So when it's still hot, you don't want to lift it, you don't want to manipulate it because it can still distort. So you leave it on there to dry. And I am now right at 6 1/2 inches, most of the way down. I can still kind of pull it and get it set and get it exactly the way I want. And I think the key is to have a very hard pressing surface. If you have a squishy ironing board, don't use that for this, because when you have squishy, you tend to push it down and then it distorts even more. So we're going to talk about the ironing board at some point at a later date. You need to have a hard pressing surface. This is just an MDF board. It's 12 years old. It's been in my studio on my cutting mat for 12 years, and I just changed the cover probably 3 months ago when I started doing COVID videos. But anyway, all it has is a very thin batting underneath, and I stretch and I pull this duck cloth over it and stretch it. So it is a very hard pressing surface. There's no sponge, and it makes all the difference in your pressing. So that's something, if you want any information on, I'll be happy to post that. But once that's dry and cool, you can pick it up and you can almost see. Can you see it? How it's just like what hopefully your background will be. So then we're going to take it to the cutting mat and let's learn how to cut these strips.
They are seeing the cutting mat.
Okay.
And soon we'll be seeing you.
And
Do you want I'm gonna put the cutting mat in the foreground, and then I'm gonna have you small in the corner. So they can see you. How you work.
So I need to talk to the hand.
No, you can talk to up here.
So I'll show them. Are we ready? Can they hear us?
Yeah, they can hear, and
Okay.
they can see the mat. I'm just getting this one situated
So
up
now
here.
let's talk about this OmniGrid ruler that when I was doing this project, I have several side setting triangles. I tried every ruler, and this to me was the easiest one. And actually, I'll be honest, I lost my instructions. I've had this probably for about 9 years, and I lost my instructions and couldn't find them for anything. And of course, they didn't post them online, so you're probably going to teach me some things again after this ruler, because I haven't pulled it out in a long time. We should shut off the overhead. Is that glare too much of a glare? Let me know if there's a glare on the ruler. But what I love about this is it is a very... Guys, thanks for watching this video. if you want more of these videos, we have plenty more coming up. We got lots of new stuff coming. So what I want you to do to be prepared is you're going to click up here if you want to watch the next video, and you're going to click down here in the bottom if you want to watch all my favorite videos, my favorite things, if you want to get some more stuff. And then what we also want to do is subscribe so that you can get all the new stuff.
Click the bell.
Click the bell, subscribe, and thanks, and we'll